Welcome to another edition of Table Talk, and today we are blessed to have not only Fumi with us, but we've got Stephen and Sheila, and our topic today is going to be speaking about losing your eyesight in terms of blindness. That's what we're going to be talking about. Before we get there though, I know that Sheila's been through a bit of a horrific time with cancer and things, so you want to give us an update on all that, Sheila?
Yes, I discovered a lump in my body and I went to the doctor. I was fast-tracked and within a couple of days I had the first operation, and then a month later I had the second operation, and the Lord answered my prayers that I could get healed, and they told me that after the second operation my cancer was completely gone. They'd got the entire thing, and this whole journey has been with God holding on to my hand, or me holding on to his hand, one or the other. But we were walking this road together, and I honestly do not know how ladies can go through this experience without having God on their side. Because before the operation they said to me that this was a rather cut and dry type thing, but when we went on to the chemo they said this is horrific medication, and I have to tell you this, but I don't want it to frighten you, because it will either cure you or kill you. Well, as you see, it hasn't killed me. It tried, because I've really just had a couple of bad years, and I used to think if I could wake up one day without pain, it would be rather fun. But I learned to live around that, because it wasn't fun for Christ what he had to go through. And so I thought, if he can go through that kind of pain and suffering, what I'm going through is almost nil compared to that. And it was just thinking like that, and also thanks to my lovely husband, who's got a wicked sense of humour. He kept me laughing, kept me healthy, kept me carrying on.
It's interesting you're saying that, because when we did that interview with Sheila and Danny, she was saying very much what you were saying, in terms of she couldn't understand how people could go through something like that without God in their lives. And she also spoke about the support that Danny gave her. And it's interesting that I have one objection to what you said there. You said that Stephen had a really good sense of humour. Well, maybe God one day will bless him with that. That was a joke, by the way. But in terms of support, Stephen, how tough was it for you going through all of that?
Well, it was tough for me having to put up with Sheila's sense of humour. Well, I'm the sort of person who just, whatever needs doing, I'll just get on with it and deal with it, and I just kept on doing what I had to do, and the time passed, and my duty was just to be there for Sheila and support her, and well, it looks like I managed to do some things right, doesn't it?
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, it did restrict us, and of course I had to take on more responsibility myself for doing things, but well, that's what we have to do, and we went through it, and of course God brought us through it, you know.
I think I've often spoke to Fumi, if anything really happened to Fumi in a serious health way, and she has a lot of stuff that she doesn't talk about anyway, but I'd have to go into survival mode to survive. Especially all the things she does in the background, and despite being in pain and things, she just gets on with it. You know, you're going to add something?
Yeah, it was just not about me, but more Sheila really, because it wasn't just the cancer treatment. You had the surgeries, then you had the chemotherapy. You know, and it's
the very week that I came out of finishing up with all my cancer treatment and the chemotherapy and that, I got the virus,
COVID.
the COVID, yeah. And so that laid me down for a week. And Stephen laughs because I often say with the 23rd Psalm, He maketh me to lie down. And sometimes my life was getting too busy for God. And so He decided to put the brakes on.
Yeah.
And that was the brakes.
But even with that, you still having to deal with your poor eyesight, your eyesight gradually, going, and it's one thing to say, okay, I've never been able to see, but we use the greatest sense that we use, I think it's our eyesight, and to do everything, and to start having that go, and nobody being able to help to stop that happening, must have been an added difficulty.
I prefer to think of it as a challenge for me. It's a challenge, and so if I think of it as a difficulty, I might start to get depressed. I must admit that I sometimes have days that I'm down, and I say, Lord, I'm not going to get through today. You must please live this day for me and tell me when I'm finished so that I can say my prayers and say thanks, and then sleep and start again the next day.
Talk us through, Sheila, because when we first met you a few years back, but especially when we come to work with the Church of Liverpool, your eyesight didn't seem to be nowhere near as bad as it is now. So talk us through that process. How did you discover, were there symptoms, apart from the obvious that you couldn't see as clear as possible, but how did that process work?
Okay, it started when we were still living in East London. No, sorry.
East London is in South Africa.
Yeah, that's
Tunbridge Wells.
South Africa. In Tunbridge Wells, and I had my first fall, and I hit my head very badly, and I had to have stitches in it. And it was after that, gradually, starting with the peripheral vision, I started to lose my eyesight. I had to give up driving, of course. So I only drive Stephen up the wall at the moment. But it was gradual, and the subsequent falls that I've had due to the fact that I couldn't see, I've just damaged it more. And what it is you've got a part of your brain which is called a
visual cortex.
A visual cortex, and it was the visual cortex that I have damaged. And the doctors have said that it could be that because there's nerves involved, it could teach different parts of my body, or of my brain at least, to take over the job of that, which is the visual and partial memory. So I have found that there's times when, yes, it's got worse, and then it's plateaued off again. And at the moment I said to Steve, I feel it's as bad as it's ever been, and I'm just praying that this is the last dip I'm going to have, and that I can keep the eyesight that I have got. The Lord has been very kind to me because He has left me being able to see a lot of colour. So I have a very bright, cheerful garden full of colour, and I appreciate the fact that it's colour. But if I see somebody walking towards me, I often make a joke and say, I don't know if it's a man, a woman, or a gorilla. Because I've got to keep laughing.
Yeah.
God's help and laughing is what's getting me through everything. And I'm learning to do things by feel. And very often somebody will say, can you see this? and offer me something to look at, and I say, can I please hold it? I'm like a naughty 5-year-old, I want to hold everything.
Yeah.
But that's how I see. And I use a white stick sometimes, and I was out going to the shop one day, and I saw a lady with a little boy who was about 6 years old, and he said, why have you got that big stick? And I said, well, you see, this isn't my stick, it's my eyes. And he looked at it. It had been raining, and he bent down and he looked at the bubble that's at the end of my stick, and he said, there's mud in your eyes. I'll get it cleaned up for you. And he went to a really muddy, icky puddle and cleaned my eye for me. And I said, thank you, that's much better. His mother was just about in tears of embarrassment, and I said, please don't be embarrassed. I've had this opportunity to give him a lesson in life. And a lot of times I wear anti-glare glasses, because although I can't see very well, I'm very conscious of light. And a lot of people will say, you'll probably see more if you take your glasses off. And I say, if I take my glasses off, I'll probably see less. I meet a lot of friends by accident in shopping centres and what have you. And sometimes I even follow the wrong person home or towards out when Stephen stops whistling. When we're out shopping, he whistles, and then I know where he is. But if he stops whistling and somebody comes past with about his build and wearing the same colours as him, I'll follow the wrong person. Or I'll start talking to them and I'll say, have you got the yogurt? And he said, I beg your pardon? I don't eat yogurt. And so I said, oh, I'm sorry. For a minute there I thought I was talking to my husband, and I just say, sorry, I am visually impaired. And the more that I admit to being visually impaired, the more I've been able to accept it, because in the beginning I felt like a leper, and people wouldn't want to speak to me, and I found, funny enough, that very often people would talk to Stephen and I, standing there, and they'll turn to him and say, how is she doing? And I thought, hello, I'm going blind, I'm not deaf, and I'm not stupid. I think I can still answer for myself.
Do you find it disorientating? We're here. Do you find it disorientating? Because for us to know where we're going, we look, and then we decide where we're going to go left, or we're going to go right, or we're going to go stop. You know, we use our eyes to decide how far we're going to go to get to where we want to go to, or the person we want to talk to. We face them, we talk to them, and then we go off and do it. Do you find that you have to anticipate where you are going to go and how you're going to get there? Because if it's in your home, you could try and organize your home for everything to be in the same place, if possible. But when you're outside, you know, then that's more difficult.
It is more difficult, but what I've tried to do is give myself imagined visual things, and I remember it by saying, over here I'm going to go up, and I have to count. Sometimes I go wrong, as Stephen says. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps, step down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, step down. And so I do that, and then I know that I walk up to the edge of the pavement. It's look left, look right, try to listen for cars. Now, silent cars are the worst enemies to me. I've already almost been run over with somebody reversing, didn't see me, I didn't hear him.
Because it's electric cars.
Electric cars.
Fortunately, somebody said, stop! And I wasn't sure if it was me or the car, so I stopped, and the car stopped. We got that sorted out pretty quickly. And I always use the same route when I go to the shop, when I go to the bus stop. And so I know I walk, I go over the steps, I cross the pavement, I go through a kennel, and I go off at a right angle, and then up a slope. I go, there's the post office. I go past the post office, do my shopping, come back in exactly the same way. Here's a bush that's always full of birds, and so I hear this is the bush, and so I do that. So, and I've got so into the habit of using that same route that one day I had somebody walking with me, and we walked all the way to the to the bus stop. And on our way back from the bus stop, she said, "You've lost your stick." And I said, "I've come all that way out without using my stick and without having her hand to guide me." So, so it's a bit of memory training as well.
Yeah.
One thing that keeps coming up, what I'm hearing, is humour. Humour is really helping you through this, and obviously helping Stephen as well, because what does the Bible says, a cheerful heart is good medicine.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to hear it from your perspective, Stephen. When you first started to notice that Sheila's eyesight was gone, was a little flags flashing to say something's not right here, and have you seen it really deteriorate?
Well, I've seen the progression of it, but really I think most of it has been Sheila has said, "Oh, I can't see that now," or "I've just lost another chunk of eyesight." And yes, there are some things that I'm sure she could see and she can't see.
Yeah, the two words that I absolutely hate is "over there." Have you seen this or this? Yes, it's over there. Over there could be a 5-mile radius because I can't see what he's saying over there.
But certainly even from the beginning, our silly little comments that we always make, our fun that we have wherever we go, we just say something crazy, and it did involve things, references to do with the fact that she couldn't see, but Sheila brought it in as well as me, just getting on with it, just being what we are.
But when people
And accepting, because it was also a case of accepting it. Sheila had this thing at first that she really didn't want to have help, she really didn't want to do this, and she didn't want to go there and so on. And gradually she's come around to thinking, no, actually, people are very helpful when they know that this is my problem.
Yeah.
And the more and more she's been accepting it, I think the easier it's got, hasn't it?
It has, yes, because in the beginning, when I really lost a great chunk of my eyesight after 2 bad falls, and I have to admit that I was stupid enough to fall down steps in my very own house.
That's not stupid. Sheila, I trip over things.
But you don't go down the stairs, crash onto your head.
Well, it's been close.
I pray that never ever happens to you, darling.
Yeah, it's been close.
But yeah, and I think too that if anyone says, "Are there angels around today?" and I have to say absolutely yes, because I've seen my sisters in Christ, and I've often said to them, "Thank you, you've been the wind beneath my wings."
I was going to ask you that in terms of the wider context here. You know, you're obviously supporting each other, but in terms of your church family, are they supportive? And if they are, in what way are they supportive?
Well, I'll tell you, first of all, by just not letting me get down and depressed when I initially started to do this. And then I've got sisters who come and visit me so much that they'll walk in the front door and they'll say, "Cooey, we're here!" And I come through from wherever I am, and they've got the kettle on and they're already making tea. They've learned their way around my house, and they just give me so much support, so I feel like...
I I look at my kitchen, for example, and you know, Mike knows that when I'm in the kitchen, I'm like just multitasking here, there, everywhere, moving here, there, everywhere, and you know, I know where things are, even if he doesn't, and even if it looks chaotic, I still know where things are. So, do you find, just two questions, do you find it difficult when people come and then move things without telling you, and two, when you would like to be doing things yourself because you've learned how to maneuver and do certain things, and then people come and then they start doing it for you, do you feel a sense of frustration, helplessness, or you know, when people are doing it all the time?
No, because I just say to myself, they come and they wanted to help me, now I must help them to help me. And so then I would say, like, for me, I don't put that over there. Would you mind just putting it back over there? Thank you. And everybody knows there's just one lady who comes to visit me, and she is such a dear, sweet lady, but she tends to want to take over, which is frustrating because I can see she's not doing things the way that I want them to be done. And so I just quietly say to her, this is the way, if you do it like this, I can move around my kitchen better.
I guess there's, in one sense, on the other side of the coin, there's a sense of trying to get the balance right. 'Cause, you know, for me, it would be very easy for me to come to your home, especially on Sunday nights when we have their studies, to just make my own coffee and blah 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 and then sit down with it. But I deliberately don't do that. Because I know you enjoy doing it. Well, I hope you enjoy doing it.
Yes,
but
You should hear what she says afterwards.
But you know what I mean. So
it's
I don't want to
because-
enable you. I want to encourage you in some way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I know that you always coffee with milk and 1 sugar, and
Two actually, Sheila. I've tried getting him down to one, and I
sorry, you
just
sometimes only
struggling.
get
Don't tell him that we only put one in when it comes to us.
now I know.
right. And the thing is, I know that's where it is, but you see, when you go through and sit down, I have to come through and say, Mike, put your hand up, please, so
Yeah.
that I know. And something that can catch my eye is movement. And very often Stephen will want to show me something, and he'll go like this. And then he's caught my eye, and he'll say, oh, there was this or this that he wanted to show me.
Yeah.
It's been quite difficult for me because right from the beginning I have tried to encourage her to do the things she can do rather than do everything for her, but it's caused a few problems. Look, I want you to do that, I want you to do that, and she can't do it, and then I get into trouble. But yes, I've sort of tried to encourage her to keep doing the things she can, but eyesight's going more and more, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's less things that she can do now.
I remember, I think it was last year, Stephen's birthday, and you wanted me to make the cake.
Yes.
And you said you were so determined you wanted to ice the
I
cake
wanted to
yourself.
ice it myself.
And I thought, how is this going to work? So I thought, no, I should just bake the cake, and I'll bring the cake over. We'll still be able to keep it as a surprise, and you'll ice the cake. But you know, it's that degree of stages, isn't it, where you're going from complete independence, because that's what you are. That was the kind of person you were. You know, in coming from South Africa, bringing up, the children, all the things you went through, and then even with the eyesight failing, it's like, right, I can still, and I still want to still be able to do this, which is rightly so. That can-do kind of attitude, which is so encouraging, and I've got to say, the next day, it was a Saturday, wasn't it? And the cake came in Sunday morning, and it was like, I think, was it you or Stephen that first of all said, well, you tried, and I looked at it now, well, have tried, but I'm sure if I had my eyes, you know, if somebody put blindfolds on me and got me to decorate a cake, I'm sure I would do worse than that. So, you know, it's that kind of thing, that not giving up, because so many people give up so easily. And we seem to be in a society where people are claiming whatever it may be, stopping them from doing and keep on doing. And we all need to keep doing. That's something that God has made it possible for us to do, irrespective of the difficulties, the trials, the problems we have, never giving up. And you are right, it's so important to have God on side, because I don't know how people think that they can cope fully and still have a smile on their face and not contemplate things like suicide and extreme mental health problems, you know, and come out on the other side victorious and smiling and singing. And I think that's the key to Christianity, and the key to coping with the difficulties that, you know, that life gives us. So well done for the decoration.
It probably was funny, but funny is good.
That must have been, I would have loved to have videoed that, you trying to decorate the cake under Stephen's guidance.
Well,
Under my guiding hand, really? Is that what you call it?
but we still when we want to make the bread for the communion, Stephen will weigh out all of the ingredients for me, and I make that dough for him. And then he will roll it to this correct thinness and cut it into the correct shapes for me. But when people say, tell Stephen to make it, I say, Stephen, we need to make it. And we do it together.
You mentioned something earlier, and I meant to pick up on it. You said that you used to you could drive, but you're not permitted to. And you're talking about independence things, being independent in that. And that must have been a tough blow. From being able to drive and your freedom to go either and everywhere to all of a sudden.
And also to be the come-to person. If anybody wanted to get from point A to point B, they would get hold of me and say, I need to do this at this time.
Right.
Okay, great stuff, I can organise it. Then I was running my own washing ironing business, so I could just put up a sign, closed for half an hour between this time and this time, and rush off, help Vicky get kids to the school or from the school or do something. And the hardest thing for me was to become dependent on people lifting me.
Yeah.
Until somebody said to me, do you know that you spend so many years of taking people for lifts and everything, and how did that make you feel? Did you feel put upon? And I said, no, I was only too glad. It was a blessing for me to have a car and the time and the ability to take them. They said, now just you keep your lips together when you have to ask for a lift, or when people offer you a lift, you say thank you very much, because if I say no, I'm not going to let you do it, I am cutting off the blessing that they have of helping me. And so that's something I've had to learn.
I think one thing that's coming clear to me is that whatever life throws at you, you've got a choice on how to deal with it. You could either throw yourself a pity party and lock yourself away, or you could look to serve like you did in other ways. Because one of the things I find amazing about you personally is how much serving you did in the background, despite your restrictions, if you want to call them restrictions, or challenges. I find that very, very encouraging. But I want to talk about someone else as we move on here. I've got a good friend, his name is Glenn. He's from Wales, and he came to the Summer Lane congregation one time. I don't know if you were there at the time, but he came up, and he was blind since birth, and he stood behind the lectern, and his first words were, please don't feel sorry for me because I'm blind. feel sorry for those who are spiritually blind.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that resonates where you guys are, well, where you are right now, Sheila. I know you're not totally blind, but in terms of eyesight.
Well, that's why I really do like that song that you sing so much. Open the eyes of my heart,
Yeah,
Lord,
yeah.
I want to see you. And I do see the Lord so much in the colours that I can see and the friends that I have. And as I said to you once, I might not be able to see, but I can still speak. So I can still speak to people and tell people. And a lot of people will say, yeah, but why is God letting this happen to you? And I said, you know, I think that the Lord is teaching me a bit of patience. Because I was a very impatient person and I wanted it done and I wanted it done yesterday.
Yeah.
And I've just learned to relax more, to take more time for prayer, to take more time for study.
That's good. I mean, Steve and I have spoken a few times, and you made, I think, I can't remember when it was now, a month ago or something, you were talking about a lot of your life has had to slow down and adjust because most of your months are taken up by hospital appointments, doctor appointments, and appointments for this, that and the next thing. So have you found it challenging to slow down? Because I know you're very active and doing a whole bunch of stuff, so you've had to peel back a little bit.
Yeah, I'm a very active sort of person. I'm going to be busy. I've got so many things to do. I'll always find something to be busy with. But now, and it's, I'm finding it tough, and sometimes I'm getting impatient with Sheila. That all I want to do is be ready and go out the house, and well, this takes time, and this takes time, and this takes time, and it does, and it slowed down lots of things. I know a lot of things that I would like to do, but I can't now. And well, I'm just running with it. I'm running with it.
But I know that Stephen's an outdoor sort of person and he does like to go bird watching, the feathered variety that is. And so I made that arrangement with one of the elderly ladies in the church. I said, how would you like to have a nice young Christian woman stay with you for 2 weeks to share your housework and share the accounts? And she said, is that you by any chance? And I said, yes. She said, yes, come. You can come for as long as you want. So I went and stayed with her so that Stephen could have the freedom for a couple of weeks of doing whatever he wanted to do. Only thing I said was, please remember to pick us up and take us to church.
And you know, I'd become so used to not doing the things that I used to like doing that during that time I hardly did anything. I just went about doing the ordinary things, but being able to do them in my own way. I didn't really do very much.
But you weren't being interrupted by me as well. As soon as Stephen settles down to do a job of his own, I say, can you help me with this, please?
It kind of reminds me of Moses. You know, his life was in 3 states. You know, his life when he was born and living in Egypt, and then his life when he had to flee from Pharaoh because he'd killed someone, and he was living in the desert. And then when he had to go back, you know, and then get the people of Israel out, because God told him to go back and get the people of Israel out of Egypt. And his conversation with God, I always find fascinating in the fact that, one, he did not want to go back, definitely, and 2, he tried every which way not to go back. And, you know, I can't do this, no, okay, you can go, well, too scared, no, you can do this. And in the end, it was like, I can't speak, you know, I'm not very good at speaking. And what God said was so important. He said, well, who makes the blind? Who makes the deaf? Who makes this? You know, And God recognized that there are people with different ailments and different problems, and He still says, I made every single one of those human beings. So all those people, every single person is precious in His sight, made in His image and likeness. But not only that, to help Moses, He then tells them, well, Aaron, your brother, is already on his way. So you might feel incapable of doing certain things that I have planned for you to do. And you might feel inadequate because you think you're not very good at speech, you're not very good at this, you're very good at that. But that's okay, because I've brought people and put things in place to actually help you. And you know, he was the best leader that Israel ever had. He was considered the humblest man on earth. He was such an amazing character. But I was just wondering, you know, maybe do you see this time period of your life as another section? Because just as Moses would have had to see himself, okay, this is a different part, a different section of my life now, and therefore I'm no longer going to be a shepherd. I'm no longer going to just roam around with sheep and with my children and my wife. Now I'm going to become a leader of a nation. I am going to have to face the giants of Pharaoh, people of Israel, and then I'm going to have to bring a whole massive, over 1 million people out. And that was a different chapter in his life led by God. So do you tend to look at life like, yeah, the past is the past, and that was one chapter or one part of a book. Now is a new chapter, a new section of a book where we have to, it's probably a question for both of you, we have to now do things differently, see things differently, arrange things differently, and go ahead positively in a different way to the way we've done before.
I hadn't really thought of it like that, Rooney. Thank you. It's given me something to think about. Because, I don't know, I've just sort of got on and done. But another thing that Stephen's done which helps me so much is I've got so many gadgets in my house now that help me. And I used to really enjoy cooking. Now curtailed to peeling potatoes and carrots. But I said to Steve, I've heard about this chef's mitten, and it's a soft glove that you put onto your hands, and it's got metal woven through it, and it stops me from cutting myself, because my knives have always been deadly sharp, because a blunt knife is a dangerous knife because you're putting so much pressure onto it, whereas a good sharp knife just slices. And so I've got these mittens, and so I can do things. I used to cut bread at the most wonderful angle, and so now Stephen has got a machine, which I yet have to learn to play with, that you put your bread in one side, and there's little slots on one side, like stripes, and you just put your knife in the stripe and cut, and you get a beautifully straight knife.
That's cool. Because I can cut straight.
It is cool, and my liquid level, so I can fill cups up and until they start to make. It's like, I always smile to myself because I think this is like a car. When you're getting closer to the wall, it's just a beep, 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 and that's what this liquid level does. And I always smile and I say, look, here I drive in with a Mercedes cup of coffees.
So there's lots of
positives in my life.
I was going to use the word. You mentioned gadgets and these knife cutting. There's lots of, what would you call that? Tools.
Aids.
Yes.
Aids. That's the word. There's lots of aids out there, yeah. And how did you access them?
Well, there's a charity that operates in the northwest, in West Lancashire, called Galloways, and they support blind and visually impaired people and there is a support group that meets in Ormskirk. There's another one in Southport, etc. And there's also the RNIB, and we got one of their catalogues, and there's all sorts of things in there that you can do. Sheila's got a little, it's just a little circle with a big white button in it, and she presses that and it tells her what the time is. So in the middle of the night, she's got one in the kitchen, she's got one in the bedroom, just press that and it tells her what the time is. And yeah, they're available, but Galloway's has been useful, has been very good support, because there's also people who can help her with technical gadgets, and it was an opportunity to pass on ideas. Other people who are blind and visually impaired say, "Oh, I found this helped," and so you apply their idea, and yeah, so it's various sources. But
you also got one of those gadgets that you speak to.
Alexa.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Yes, that's Bob.
Oh,
Oh, it's a Bob now, not Alexa.
No, because if you say Alexa or something like that, he just turns on and listens into your conversation. And so if we, within talking range, we say Bob, and maybe one day he'll cotton on to it that that's him. But
So I've got two quick questions just to finish up with here. The first one is this: you've already mentioned some of the support you've received from your church family. A lot of people maybe don't know where to support or how to support. So what ways would you guys suggest? And I'm not just talking about for you, Sheila, I'm talking about for Stephen as well. What would be the best way to support you guys?
talk to us as if you didn't know that I was blind, because then you'll be just relaxed and able to have a chat.
Yeah.
Very often people, you can hear that they're uncomfortable, not quite knowing how to talk. And then please, if you approach blind people from the back, don't touch them before you've told them who you are and what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Right.
And the experience that I had with this particularly was when we were going on this last holiday. I asked for assisted passage, so they insisted that I was in a wheelchair. Then we went to customs, and there I was parked in these little, in between these two little like walls. And somebody's taking my case, and somebody else is taking my coat off, and somebody else is doing something. And I'm saying, "Stephen, what is happening? What is happening?" And I panicked because I didn't have a clue of what was happening, because it was all done with complete silence. Now, I do belong to a ladies' choir, and all the time the ladies, they also say, you know, what will make it comfortable for you? And I say, come up to me and tell me who you are before you touch me.
Yeah.
And so they'll come up and they'll say, "This is one of the Margarets," and you know, sit down here next to me.
That's useful. Stephen?
From my point of view, when, particularly when I take Sheila to the ladies' choir, and to other situations, there are lots of people there who are willing to help, who like to help, and I just feel like if I can step back and let other people do it, then I get a little bit of a break, and other people are able to help. So sometimes if I come to somewhere and I'm sort of not helping and so on, that might be because I just, hopefully someone else will step in. You know, so whatever, but at the same time,
it gives me the confidence to do without you, and the humbleness of being able to say, "Fumi, can you please lift me?" And then she says, "No, you're far too heavy, but you can come in my car."
Okay, my last question is, did you want to make any comment on that first?
I did, but I've forgotten. What? Oh yes, I have remembered. one of the things, when you were saying, you were asking about what would be helpful, thank you for the nudge, what would be helpful to you, it just reminded me of the fact that another thing people could do is, if they think of, the second greatest command, to love our neighbor as ourselves, how would you feel, or what would you want if you were in that situation? What would you want others to do for you, or how would you want others to behave with you? Then that might actually help people, because a lot of the time people are not thinking. As you say, they don't know what to do, they find it scary, they find it, well, I don't know, I'm not sure, so I'll just stay back, or I do too much, or whatever. And it's just like, if you're in that situation and I can't say, I'll either say I need help, or if people see that I'm a bit lost or something, then come and ask, can I help you? Or would you like whatever, rather just touching you or shoving you in a particular way.
Yeah.
And I think if people think about it that way, that if I'm in this situation, what would I hope would happen to me? How would I expect people to help me? Then that might enable them to be able to help positively.
So my last question is this. To anybody who is losing their eyesight right now, what would you say to them?
Pray. Pray, 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 lots of prayer. And also share your fears with other people, because there's something that's called Charles Bonnet, and this is, your mind will take things that are in the back of your mind. Like long time ago I saw a snake, for instance. Then I might start seeing snakes everywhere. It's your mind that's playing tricks. And Stephen said something the other day which was interesting. He said, I wonder if Satan's got anything to do with that, because he's seen how hesitant and that I've become, because very often I see holes, oval-shaped holes, where there's nothing, there's no holes. And so what I have to do is do a little tap dance to find out where is firm ground.
Yeah.
Holes or steps. And I have to really be hesitant about the way that I'm walking. And so just learning things about what happens to people that are, and you can find all that information on the web. But, and when I say I can't see, believe me, because somebody said recently, you walk so confidently from your chair around to the kitchen and back. Have you ever looked down at the floor? There is a distinct stripe, it's like a shiny one.
Wall.
And I can see it shiny. And so if you see me going to the kitchen or to the toilet, I'll get up, I'll get to that wall, and I'll follow the wall all the way around.
So Stephen, what would you say to somebody who, obviously you're in a support situation, so what would you say to somebody who's supporting somebody who's losing their eyesight?
I think it's important to just observe what is needed, what is the best thing, and also I do think it's important for me to just step back and realise that well, maybe my life's not all my own now, and I've got to think about someone else. Got to think about someone else, and I have obviously we prayed a lot that Sheila's eyesight would be curable and that we'd be able to do something about it. But one thing that I prayed quite a lot fairly recently is, Lord, while Sheila really needs me, don't let me get sick. Don't let me get sick. And that went on for so long, and then just recently I got sick, but Sheila did well in the house on her own.
So he made you lie down on the...
I was forced to lie down in green pastures, and Sheila, well, she fumbled around, and things were very slow and kept, but nothing went wrong. Nothing went
Good.
wrong, and I was able to recover, and here I am.
And I'll tell you something, with having to really focus my mind on what I was doing.
Yeah.
I felt very confident moving around the house and doing things. And I thought of something in the night. I need help to switch on a plate on the hob when I want to cook. And I thought, I'm going to ask Stephen to please put the plate on, and then I'm going to switch it off at the wall.
Yeah.
So that I don't have to do the wrong one or anything else.
Yeah.
I'll know that that is the one that's coming on and that is the one that's coming off.
Yeah.
And I just say thank you, Lord, for giving me that idea.
Yeah. Okay, Fumi, you want to finish up?
I just want to say thank you for still being you, and sometimes we forget, we see the ailment and not the person, and you have shown great courage, even though sometimes you might not feel it. You know, but it's still such an encouragement to all, and I'm hoping that anybody who's watching this video, has watched this video, when it comes out, will be encouraged to have more of an idea about what it is like. You know, I haven't tried it, but you know, to go around a whole day with my eyes closed, it's going to be such an experience. So what you're doing, you know, I'm encouraged by all those who have, you know, sight problems, sight issues, can't see as us, but obviously, yeah, I pray that, you know, things continue to go better for you, and Stephen is learning patience a lot. But at the same time, the carer, the supporter, you know, we tend to forget about, you know, those people as well. And you know, if you ever guys need help, then we are here. And that's what people need to remember, is always ask people, you know, remind them that, you know, if they need help, that you're there for them.
The thing is, I'm as fiercely independent, I think, as Sheila is. Want to do my own thing, want to be in control of my life, and so I haven't always. Yeah. Well, I've always been a go-to guy, and it's very difficult to not be able to do that anymore. And suddenly you have to say, well, actually, I need a little bit of help.
And maybe that's one thing God is teaching you through this. You know that. You know, for years you've blessed other people, now it's time to receive some blessings back, because that's often the hardest part.
Yeah. Is that trusting
it's
God?
The receiving.
You've been trusting yourself to receive.
But it has been key, the fact that we both come from big families where we have to chip off all our siblings, and so we've got all the comments. She says something and I respond with something even stupider, and she comes out with something else. And humour has got to be a big thing. Just keep smiling through. I remember one incident that we tell a lot, where she was in the shopping centre and she needed to go to the toilets and went down a passage, and it says gents, ladies, that way, and she couldn't see which arrow was which, and thought, that looks like the right one. Started going to the right, and there was a cleaner there, so, oh no ma'am, you must not go in there, you might see something. And she said, oh, is this where they cure blindness?
Anyway, I want to thank you both for being with us. We hope and pray that something's been said tonight that will be an encouragement to other people. And we thank you all for watching again on YouTube. And may God bless you and keep you safe until we meet again. God bless. Bye.
Bye everyone.